From Canada, Citizens Forum, where we look at the important issues of the day through a lens of democracy and media and try to figure out, how do we build a better country for ourselves?
Hello, it is Thursday, July the 17th, 2025. My name is Jack Etkin. I'm talking to Nancy DeCastri and Matt McGeechee. We're talking about some goings on in Saanich, some very important happenings. Recently, Saanich City Council wanted to borrow $150 million for a project they are working on. Now, the law says that if you're going to borrow that amount of money, you have to have a referendum. But some years ago, that was changed so that if you don't want to have a referendum and actually ask the people of Saanich or any other community, if you don't want to ask the people to approve what you're doing, you can come up with another process called an AAP, which is an alternative approval process. And under that process, the city government doesn't have to do anything. And what they want to do, borrow the $150 million, is approved as long as 10% of the people cannot speak against it or vote against it. So that's what Saanich City Council decided to do. They said, we're not going to have a referendum, which I think they should have because it's democratic. I think you should always be asking the people. We elect our Saanich City Council, we pay them. But when it comes down to making the decisions, they say, we don't want to hear from you. So instead, they decided to do the AAP. And it would have absolutely, their desire to borrow the $150 million would have gone ahead, except that a group of local citizens decided, mostly, I think, just because it's the democratic thing to do, to try to see if they could be stopped. And Nancy and Matt, you were two of the people involved in it. And maybe you can just tell us why it was important to do and what you did.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I think there's a bit of history here with Saanich. They'd never used an AAP before to get approval to borrow money. And we've seen recently the CRD, I think late last year, and then Saanich itself in early spring had 5 different AAPs going to try and borrow money and kind of do an end run around engagement, citizens engagement. So I think previously they were testing the waters for this $150 million borrowing approval. And we caught wind of this, and we really thought that, this is a lot of money to borrow. Saanich itself, I think, carries a debt load of maybe $50 million. So this was going to affect people's taxes for the next 30 years. And we felt that the way they were going about it, it didn't really give people a chance to weigh in on it at all. It's a very secretive process. We say that silence is consent, which we don't agree with. So we wanted to get out there and at least let people know what was going on and to enlighten the average Saanich resident about the impact of this kind of borrowing on their taxes for the next 30 years. And the democracy around it, mostly as well.
Did people have any idea of what was going on?
Well, we found most people did not, which was interesting. The process runs for about 30 days. It might have been a couple of days longer. 36. And 36, yeah. So, and they don't give you a lot of advance notice. So it's kind of dropped, a week or two before that. So the whole process is over before you even know it. And right until the end, when we were talking to people, canvassing, whatever, we always ran into people that said, I had no idea this was going on. And Saanich will say, well, we did this, that, and the other, but really they didn't reach out to the people in a way that was meaningful to them.
And the only reason I even knew about it was because a friend told me, and then I met you folks. But otherwise, I don't think I ever would have had any idea this was happening. And for our city government to do this, to me, that's the number one thing. It's undemocratic, and it's, our city governments are just, once they get elected, they seem to think they're our kings and queens. And in fact, they are our kings and queens. And really, it's up to us to begin to take power away from them, because I don't trust them. I don't think they have our interests at heart, and they cannot, the city councils can't be allowed to run the city. It has to be the public.
I agree.
Yeah, so Nancy, you were sort of one of the people most involved in this. I don't know if you want to talk about the process, because the process is over, or if you want to talk about where we're at now and what's going to be happening next.
Well, the process, you're right. The process is over, and it was a busy 36 days. People were incredible. The public was amazing. We ended up deputizing the public. We were camped at the municipal hall, and they would come in, and we would give them 10 forms or 20 forms, or in some cases, people would take away 100 forms. People were very motivated to make a difference. And they really felt that this was not a way people felt it was sneaky. And so they just didn't sort of cotton on to the whole thing. It just didn't sit right with them. So this is why people felt, I want to make a difference. I want to help with this. So we're here now, and really what I had a call today from one of the news outlets, and they said, you've won. And I said, we don't really see this as a win or lose proposition. We didn't win, they lost. What really for us, this is an empirical measure of how many people are really dissatisfied with our local government. And there's a lot of people. And we all felt that if we'd had 3 more weeks, I think we probably would have done twice what we ended up doing, because the momentum was so great. People were so engaged with this, and people would come and they'd drop off their ballots and they'd say, are we going to do this? Is this going to actually happen? So I think that the public, because how the old thing is, you can't fight City Hall. Like, you just can't fight City Hall. But you can, because the public has a voice. And I think in a democratic system, as long as we are still in a democratic system, the public has a voice. And we need to make that voice really loud and clear, that the special interest groups, and we didn't even know they existed. But these special interest groups, they can't exist in the shadows anymore. Like, we've kind of dragged them out into the sunlight and said, here they are, Homes for Living, the cycling lobby, the UVic Real Estate Club. These are people that shouldn't exist in the shadows, because they're not members of the community, and they shouldn't have the same voice as the community. Absolutely, they should have a voice in their own community, but not in the communities that they don't live in. So I think that this was a way for us to also show council people aren't happy.
And what we did, what we did, one of the big things I noticed is at the beginning, people kind of said, you can't do this. People were took a bit of a step back at the beginning. But as we became more engaged and we never went away, we actually gave the Saanich residents permission to speak out, in a sense. People felt, hey, wait a minute, my neighbor told me about this. Somebody at work told me about this, those kind of things. So as it grew, we found more and more people were feeling empowered to say something about how this process all was being handled. The impact on their finances, the actual plan itself, which Saanich always sold as just a public works yard redo, but it really included carving off 1/3 of the property for private development. which Saanich would never talk about. So all those things combined, people felt, oh, wait a minute, I do have a voice. I can make a difference. And as Nancy said, so many people came to us and said, give me a handful for my neighbors. I'm going to get them to sign. Give me a handful for my family. Those kind of things. And we had our website. We would do, call us. We'll drop off forms or deliver them. And I was driving around all day which I really enjoyed, and I met a lot of wonderful people, both in the urban part and the rural part of Saanich, and they all had a similar theme.
And just to recap, what our city, Saanich, wanted to do was borrow $150 million for to redo the city works yard, and also on that same property to build one or two 18 or 20 story tall buildings. And that's good if they want to do that. I don't know if the public supports that or not, but what I don't support is the Saanich Council not having a referendum, which they should have, which allows people to speak and finds out what people want, because that has to be what it's all about. Instead, they tried to do a secretive process called the AAP, the Alternative Approval Process, and it's not their job to tell anybody about it. So nobody would ever know about it unless a group like yours makes it happen, which you did, and I really congratulate you on that. And I really hope this is a stepping stone to really beginning to change the way our city governments work. I have completely lost faith in our city councils, not only Saanich, but Victoria as well. And I'm sure the others are not that different, because they are our city councils are just not capable or interested in protecting our interests. Something happens once they get onto the city council and they become the council, and they become the power structure, and the citizens become irrelevant. And that it's gone on for too long already, and it's already cost us dearly. And I would really like to see this stop, and maybe what you have done here by succeeding in stopping this project and forcing them to perhaps go to an actual referendum where people can vote. I hope that's the beginning of a new direction for democracy locally, and not only here in Victoria and Saanich, but across the whole country, because it's the same everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's a mess.
So, Jack, because we've come under fire for giving wrong information, and city council says, oh, that's not true. The fact is that Saanich does not want to build the buildings. What they want, so that money is going to prepare to rebuild the old buildings there, which apparently, according to the engineer, is 20 to 30 million. But the bulk of the money is going to prepare the land, to remediate it, and then prepare the infrastructure to get it ready, where they hope that a developer will partner with them, build 2 18-story towers, pay them $30 million, which we don't think was, from everything that we're hearing, is never going to happen, because it's just, that's not what builders want to build right now.
That's true.
And enter into a 99-year lease. So this is what they want to do. It's so Saanich are not themselves wanting to build 2 18-story towers.
Right. Okay, so you've been successful in blocking the borrowing of the money and kind of stop the project, I guess. Just what comes next?
We're hoping that they will put it on the ballot next year. They say they want to save the public money, so put it on the ballot next year.
Put the referendum on the ballot.
Put the referendum on the ballot. People are going to the ballot box already, so there's very little cost to that. Put that on the ballot, and then it's incumbent upon Saanich to really explain to the public what they want to spend $150 million on?
Well, just to clarify, one thing I learned through this whole process is if they have a referendum, they have to hold it within 80 days of the end of this AEP, which was June 25th.
Okay, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
So they're obligated to, if they will want to have a referendum, they have to have it, within that 80-day time period. They can't hold the same AAP again for 6 months. So the other alternative is a referendum, or they can just drop the bylaw altogether and start over again with maybe a new plan. Or I know the province has given them the ability to borrow more money now. It used to be the debt servicing couldn't exceed 5% of their annual budget, and they've just, through this process, or in the middle of the process, the province upped it to 10%. I don't know if that will give them the room to borrow without an AAP. And certainly if they do, they will reach their credit limit again. So it's a one-off even if they try and do it. But yeah, so either drop it altogether and regroup, or hold a referendum within a couple months.
And in general, I would just like to say I really want to see more democracy at the city government level, where the public has got to be brought in to the decision making. I am so tired of our city governments somehow being convinced of something and then manipulating the public into doing what the council wants instead of finding out what the public wants and doing that. It's destroying at the city level, the provincial level, and the federal level. It's destroying our country.
Well, they're being co-opted. They're all being co-opted by different special interest groups.
Yeah. Okay, Matt and Nancy, any last words or?
Not real.
Okay, I can't think of anything. Go ahead, Nancy.
I can't either. We just want to thank everybody that helped us. The public were amazing. They rushed in every day to the municipal hall. You came there, Jack. I mean, people rushed in every day with their ballots, and they were so helpful, and they were so invested in the process. They really were, because people, I think they did see an opportunity to actually make a difference.
Yes, to participate.
Hey, we can overturn this.
Yeah.
I mean, I walk around Elk Lake every morning with my dogs, and I see people there that they say to me every day, "Did you do it? Did you do it?" So there's so many people in Saanich that are invested in this because they want their municipality back. They want to feel, we understand that growth is going to happen. We understand that things are changing, but we want to do it in a democratic way where it's collaborative. We're all doing this together because this municipality does not belong to mayor and council.
Exactly. We should have a big party on the back steps of Saanich City Hall where you guys were collecting your signatures. It's a beautiful spot, and invite everybody who either voted or didn't vote to come. And anyways, thank you both. Thank you both very much for doing this. But more so, thank you very much for doing what you did, because I mean, you really struck a blow for something important. So thanks to both of you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. But don't go. So that was great. Thank you very much.
Oh.